And with that, we're going to begin with our first keynote speaker, Jennifer Stewart, who will talk to us about grace under pressure. Jennifer is an ESG executive and independent board member at Southwestern Energy. She has over 30 years of legal, financial, and ESG strategy experience. She's an attorney licensed to practice in the state of Texas and currently serves as an independent board member of Paragon Integrated Services, LLC, an environmental services company where she is the chairman of the ESG committee. She's an adjunct law professor at the University of Houston Law Center and has been recognized as one of Texas's most powerful women in oil and gas by the National Diversity Council, a top woman in energy by the Houston Business Journal, and received the Greater Houston Women's Chamber of Commerce Trailblazer Award. Let's please welcome Jennifer Stewart.
Thank you, Maya. That was an amazing story. I enjoyed every minute of it. Good morning. So I was given, when the conference organizers reached out to me, I was given the option of what topic did I want to pick, and I had a choice of a few topics, and I picked grace under pressure. And so why did I pick grace under pressure? Why did I choose this topic? And so is it because my favorite band of all time is Rush? And they had grace under pressure, and the lyricist of Rush, Neil Peart, is a true poet, and this is one of his lyrics from the Grace Under Pressure album that I thought was very fitting for our discussion today. Is it that? No, not really. It's because I don't have grace under pressure. I crumble under pressure. And I have learned techniques over time, techniques and tools that have helped me, but I can't stand here today and tell you that I am the queen of grace under pressure. As a matter of fact, I went to the wrong Mary office. I laid my car and sat prepared and said, "Where's the Van Gogh room?" And they looked at me. So, but as I told Maya, I knew it was half a mile away. No big deal. I'll be there in time. So here I am. So I want to talk a couple things. I want to go through a couple concepts. And the first one is what I like to call, if you haven't heard it, controlling your lizard brain. And what does that mean? Well, it means that I'm not a scientist, and I don't know medical terminology that well, but we have something in our brain called the amygdala, which is our reptilian brain. And our reptilian brain hijacks us. It hijacks us all the time. And so what I have here is a picture of a snake, and the snake isn't to cause fear in you. The picture of the snake is when you're walking somewhere and you come across the snake. Let's forget about what your reaction is. What is the snake's reaction? The snake is going to do one of three things. It's going to fight you. It's going to try to bite you. It's going to freeze, or it's going to flee. It's going to run away because it's scared. Now let's translate that to you. You've had a horrible morning. Your kids are, you can't get them up. You can't get them to school. You get in a fight with your teenage daughter or son. Traffic is terrible on the way to work. You get to work, and the minute you walk in the door, your boss lights into you about something, what a mistake you made, or why didn't you do this? What kicks in immediately? Does your reasoning, thinking brain kick in, or does your reptilian brain kick in? You do one of three things, right? You fight, you lash back out at your boss, you shut down and you back away, or you freeze. You just say nothing and you hope this passes, but you know it's not going to pass. It's just going to get worse. So you're like a snake, because we're all like snakes, because when our reptilian brain kicks in, we lose all of our ability to reason and think. It's in charge of your fear and your aggression. So how does the reptilian brain hijack you? It's called the hijack. And the hijack works in a couple ways. It works in a way where I just talked about, where your non-thinking part of your brain just goes away and your reptilian brain kicks in. And then the other way that you get hijacked is you start thinking about, okay, so let's talk about your boss that lights into you when you first walk in the morning, or your partner that you get in a fight with in the morning, that on your way to work. You start thinking about that partner or that boss or coworker or whatever, and you start thinking about all the negative things about that person, and you start a cycle in your brain that goes on and on and on about the negativity. You focus on someone else's weaknesses and someone else's limitations and how they're wrong, and that hijacks your brain. That engages the reptilian part of your brain and puts you into a hijack. When you get stuck in these repetitive cycles over and over and over again, this amygdala is activated and it won't stop. You can't listen to suggestions. You can't think clearly. You can't plan. And that's why when you're in an argument or you get in these situations, I guarantee, I hope you have these slides. I can give you what I consider my little toolkit. The next time you get in an argument or a fight or a stressful situation, you're going to forget all these tools, because the reptilian brain kicks in and your reasoning brain goes away. You can't reason, think things through, or hear suggestions. But the good news is with effort and with concentration and with practice, just like any skill, you can change this. So how do you change it? How do you change the emotional hijack? Or how do you arrest the emotional hijack? Well, this is one tool, how to stop the hijack. And this is a writing exercise. And you ask yourself 5 questions. It's called an emotional audit. It's a leadership tool that helps with both self-awareness and self-management. And so it applies not only in a high-pressure, scary situation where you're shaking and upset, but it also will apply in situations of any emotional upset, jealousy, resentment, sadness, despair. Any of these can be used to stop an emotional hijack. These are designed to ask strategic questions to change your focus when you're emotionally charged, and they redirect your brain's thinking. And the goal of this emotional audit is to re-engage your brain out of your reptilian brain into your thinking brain. So how does it work? And I've used this myself personally. I've used this with at work, and I've used this with family. I've actually been in a heated discussion with one of my daughters, and literally stopped and walked away and did an emotional audit and diffused the situation. You know how things can escalate sometimes. So what are the 5 things? The first thing is what am I thinking right now? What am I thinking? And this integrates your feelings and your thoughts. You just write down. You don't think about it too hard. Just what am I thinking right now? Then what am I feeling? Here's what I'm thinking, and here's what I'm feeling. I'm anxious. I'm upset. I'm sad. I'm stressed. Whatever. This creates stability, and there's a phrase called "name it to tame it." You can't tame it unless you name them and you know what they are. And then the next question you ask yourself is, what do I want right now? And this engages your executive function of your brain. It gets you out of that reactive mode and into that proactive mode. Then the next question you ask yourself is, how am I getting in my own way right now? And this is self-reflection. This is you looking back and again unengaging that reptilian brain and stepping back a little bit and centering somewhat. And then the next question you ask yourself is, what do I need to do differently right now? Not a month from now, not next week, but what do I need to do differently right now? And again, this engages the executive function of your brain. It engages the planning and goal setting in your brain. And then also you start thinking about options and ideas. You're escaping from this instant situation that you're in. And it gets you to thinking about, okay, what can I do? How can we address this situation? How can I address this situation? So this is a great tool if you can, but what you have to do is you have to recognize that you're in an emotional hijack first. This doesn't work unless you realize you're in an emotional hijack. Be somewhat self-aware to say, oh, this isn't going well. I need to leave the room. I need to step back. I need to pause, and I need to do this emotional audit. The other part of grace under pressure is learning resilience. And I want to talk a little bit about the difference between pressure and stress. So pressure is not bad. I would think most of the women in this room thrive on pressure, or you wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be part of a women's leadership group, because pressure is what drives you. Pressure is when you excel. Pressure is when you rise to the occasion and have shown above your peers to demonstrate that you are a leader in your workspace. But pressure is not the same thing as stress. Stress is derived from rumination. And the word rumination is derived from animals like goats and cattle that, they eat grass, it goes into one of their stomachs, it comes back up, they chew it, it goes back down. That's called, the biological term for that is rumination. And so rumination is thinking about things over and over and over again, about events either in the past or the future, and attaching a negative emotion to it. So that's what stress is. That's what stress is. That is what rumination is. So stress is not pressure. Stress is ruminating and obsessing and thinking about a situation and attaching some negative connotation to it. Just to bring it home, stress is rumination, which is thinking over and over about events in the past or future and attaching a negative emotion to it. So that's another self-awareness tool that you can use to, when you find yourself in this rumination pattern, to stop. And then my next slide is kind of a tool. When you find yourself in that, what can you do to stop that? What can you do to hijack your reptilian brain? So to stop ruminating, these are some kind of practical tips that I have used, and I've used them as shortly as day before yesterday. So stop ruminating. I have 6 things here. The first one is wake up and come to your senses literally. And I don't mean come to your senses in a metaphorical sense. I mean come to your senses literally. I've been an example I can give is about a year ago, I used to be an avid runner. I can't do it anymore. I'm bursitis in my hips, but I was running and I was ruminating about something, and I was like, stop. And so I literally stopped and I touched a mailbox, and I stopped and I touched the mailbox. And I'm like, what am I feeling right now? I'm feeling concrete. I'm feeling, I'm feeling a cold concrete mailbox. And all that did was, first I was proud of myself realizing I was ruminating, but then just stopping and touching really helped. And then, another example is I have a daughter with a severe mental illness, and she's in crisis right now. And so I will share that with you because people don't like to talk about mental illness, and it drives me crazy. So those sisters in the room that have family or friends with mental illness, I'm with you. So yesterday, I got the nurse's office hung up. I called the nurse's station and they hung up on me. And my reptilian brain. And so I was outside, and I literally sat down on the sidewalk, and I'm like, what am I feeling right now? I'm feeling the sun. I'm feeling the ground, I'm feeling the warmth of I'm feeling the warmth of the sun, I'm feeling the sweat on my skin, I'm feeling, feeling my legs. And it works. It really works. I mean, it doesn't solve the problem, but it gets you out of that. What am I going to do? The next thing is, and I know we've heard this so much in our lives, but focus on what you can control. Focus. We as women, I think, or I speak for myself. We want to run everything. We want to control everything. We want to fix everything. Some things are out of our control. So focus on what you can control and don't ruminate about what you can't. For me, this was most applicable at work. You have a crisis at work, or you have a dilemma. Should I go to my daughter's, mommy with donuts, or should I go to this really important meeting with a senior executive at my employer? Oh, well, okay, so stop and think instead of stressing about it. 5 years from now, who's really going to care? If I make a decision to go be whatever the decision is, I'm not saying which one is right or wrong, but whatever that decision is, it's not life or death. Just back up a little bit and think, okay, 5 years from now, is this really going to matter? No. So that's another technique. And then the old one, this too shall pass, this too shall pass, this too shall pass. And then another one I really like is as you're worrying and stressing, write out what is the worst thing that can happen. Just get it out. Think of your mind. Okay, here I'm in a situation of, I might get a demotion. I might, trying to keep it in a professional context. You can think about all the things that I'm going to get in trouble. I'm going to get demoted. I'm not going to get that promotion, whatever. What's the worst that can happen? Write it out and then plan for it. And then if it happens, you got it. I mean, then if it happens, you're not surprised. Okay, this was in my plan, and here's what I'm going to do about it. Again, that gets you out of your reptilian panic brain and into a planning, thinking, strategic brain. And then finally, we hear this so often, you see the serenity prayer sometimes, but let go, accept and make a conscious decision to let go of the things that you can't control. And sometimes even the things that you can control, still just let go a little bit and back up. Not reflection. So don't confuse the fact that, oh, you're telling me I can't, I made a mistake at work, excuse me, or I yelled at my son or whatever. That is not, rumination is not reflection. Reflection is thinking back on something or an action that you took or behavior that you took that maybe wasn't optimal, and you plan and strategize and learn from that. As Maya said, we all make mistakes in our families, in our personal life. And so what reflection is reflecting back and learning from that and looking forward. It's not ruminating, oh, I'm so stupid. Why didn't I do that? And to keep that distinction, that reflection is important, and reflection is what it may prevent what just happened from happening again. To stop the stress and to stop your reptilian brain is in a situation, no matter how bad, and this can be a serious illness, it can be a death in the family, it can be, the spectrum could be anything. And I learned this from hearing a speaker, and his name is Nick Petrie, who had cancer and was near death. And he came up with this actually as a way to cope with this. When he had cancer, he went through this, and that always stuck in my brain. So in any situation, ask yourself these 4 questions. What's great about this? There's nothing great about this. But if you can't think of anything, if in your mind there's nothing great about this, well, use your imagination. What could be great about this? What could be great? There's got to be something funny. I mean, you may have to dig deep, but there's got to be something funny about it. What is the opportunity? And so this gentleman, Nick Petrie, he took the opportunity. If I survive this, I'm going to take what I learned and I'm going to share it with others. And that became his opportunity that he he turned it. For example, for me, for my opportunity with my daughter, it's being very open and public about mental illness. And that is my opportunity. And I have found several times, you know, I just met someone 2 weeks ago and she says, oh, I have a son who's got some, you know, he's kind of a problem child. And we explored a little bit more. And it turned out he's paranoid, whatever, schizophrenic, paranoid or something horrible. And we connected. And if she hadn't have shared, then we wouldn't have been able, you know, if we had kept that secret inside, we wouldn't have been able to share. And now she's become a friend and a support person. And so that was, ironically, that was an opportunity to come out of this, that I've gained a new friend. The next thing I want to share, and this is kind of random, is when I was at Southwestern Energy in an executive leadership capacity, I had an executive coach, and these are literally, these are handwritten notes that I took in my discussions with her, and I just wanted to share them with you. Some of them are repetitive of what we've already talked about, but this is more in a work situation, is what can I control or influence in my work situation right now? And if I can't control it or influence, let it go. Stop worrying about it. Focus on what I can control. The next, write everything down that's bothering me and put it in the shred. and that is, instead of lashing out at coworkers, lashing out at your boss, lashing out at your family when they call you just had a very stressful meeting. Don't do that. Write it all down and put it in the shredder because you don't want anybody to see it. But it's a way to get it all out of a piece of paper and not damage not damage your professional reputation as someone who can't handle pressure, because you take all that pressure and you put it on a piece of paper. When you get irritated and upset, have a mantra, and I have one for you that I'm going to share in my last slide. Do some deep breathing, distract yourself. That's pretty, you know, we read about that in self-help books. It's pretty common sense. Last night in the hospital, I was pacing, all is well with my soul. All is well with my soul. All is well with my soul. And it really, it helped me. It helped my reptilian brain check out, and my reasoning brain came back in, and it was okay. And then at work, one thing that really resonated with me from her is that you have a choice. You have a choice, and you choose to be here. And you have a choice when you're at work to dwell on the positive or dwell on the negative. It's a choice that you make. If it's really bad, you know, you're not an indentured servant. You can leave. You can quit. You can find another job. Amen. And then you also, if it's not that bad that you want to leave the situation, you have a choice to stop focusing on the negative and start focusing on the positive. And then finally, this is a lot of our work stress comes from interactions with some of it's situational. You know, you've got a big project, you're under pressure. But I found in my career, I found myself pretty confident. A lot of my stress and pressure came from interactions with others, difficult qualities, and for this, it was to reframe the discussion instead of going back to the rumination. Instead of ruminating about what is terrible about this person, what is wrong about this person, stop and what is good about this? Because no one is diabolically evil all the way through. And well, but there's not something good. Brain in that circumstance. And then I want to share some other tools that these are books that really have helped me, and I use, except for don't sweat the small stuff at work because I'm retired. There's something called the 5-minute journal, and it's a gratitude journal, and it's something that you do every day. And I've gone through 3 of them so far. I'm on my 4th. I started in 2018. I'm not religious about doing it every day. You're supposed to do it every day, but it's a fantastic tool to start and end your day. I highly recommend the 5-minute journal. The other book that really helped me is called The Daily Stoic. And it's a 365-day book with a lesson on stoicism every day. And then that you can read, it takes a minute. And then there's a journal that accompanies that. So you can read what the stoicism lesson is. And then you can journal about it. And so actually today's lesson was, don't worry about negative situations. Don't worry about hard times. Instead, make sure that you're strong enough to handle those strong times. And that was, wow, that was a great lesson for today. And then Don't Sweat the Small Stuff at Work is an amazing, amazing book. That book was another one that at a particularly stressful time in my job, I read a page from it every day, and it was dog ear and such good lessons. And actually, when I took over a new team, I bought this book and I gave it to all 50 members of my team. I went on Amazon and bought it because I wanted to share that tool with the team. So these are some books that have really helped me both my personal and professional life. And the Don't Sweat the Small Stuff, they have it for family, for work, all kinds of stuff. So, and unfortunately, the man that wrote this passed away some time ago because I literally was going to read him a letter, thank him. And then I read he died. Okay, so I'm going to wrap up with and actually I found this in the Houston Chronicle. So this is not my thing that I made up. It was in the Chronicle, and I love it. I love it. It's called the Tug of War meditation exercise. So if you will do it with me, I'm going to be your yogi for a minute, and you don't have to shut your eyes or anything. I'm just going to be that. I want you to do it. You didn't realize it, but you were playing tug of war. Completely let go. I'm going to try. Stop all pulling, ripping, and resisting. Let go. Feel how the extra tension you had is suddenly released. Feeling it now. Focus on the softness in your body. In your breath, allow relaxation and ease to take over your body. Feel that release and let it radiate around you. Let that glow radiate around you to the women and your family and your coworkers. Raise your hand on your heart and say, thank you. Thank you for this peaceful moment, this peaceful and precious sensation. Thank you that there is beauty and grace surrounding you right now. And that's the tug of war mantra. Thank you very much. I'm happy to, if we have any time left, happy to take any questions. And I'm also assuming you did this step. I did have a few links there that were kind of the sources for what the tools that I shared before. Yes,
because y'all gonna take me out by the end of the day. You got me, so we're happy. So, I project really loud, so I know I don't need this, but I'll do this. Okay, so I want to go back to the tug of war. I love everything you said, and I think everything you said is the resource to do tug of war.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm a visual person. Okay, that's a childhood game. Most of us probably grew up playing, and I do believe I have a personality that comes to that game where just the visual is hard.
Of that pulling?
The visual is hard to do the meditation, even though you just gave all the tools to do it. Because when I think of that childhood game, and I have a protective, challenging, charismatic, loud, demonstrative personality, the goal is to win that game. The flag is in the middle, and the goal is to pull. So like that game that's set up Because what you have shown to me, I watched the USA show Snake in the Grass, but what you have shown to me is at the end of the day, we are all snakes. We are. And that, it benefits you and it teaches you young. You pull stronger, you are more strategic, you align your team. So help me because it taught good. So you're like, okay, I'm gonna kill the snake in you. And I'm like, I ain't never been more scared. Help me. So,
I see a difference here between a challenge at work where an adversity that you're faced with, and you're like, I'm going to beat this. I got my strength. I'm going to overcome it. I've got the skills. I've got the strength. I'm a powerful woman. I can get this. And like I said, we wouldn't be here if we didn't have that in us. What I equate this to is when it's a little worse than that. And you got this tension in your body that you can't get rid of. And to me, the visual is, I don't equate this to, how to, there's a book called How to Win the Corner Office. This is not how to win the corner office, losing tug of war. What this is stepping back and letting go and taking a deep breath when you're about ready to smack something, whether at work or at home, or whatever you wanted to do. So that's where I see the difference. As this isn't a tool to have to move up in your career. This is a tool to just let me go and go to the other room before business. That's what I see.
Thank you so much.
So 30 years ago, I was like a lot of you. And I think that a large group of people working for me, children. My husband died when I was 42 years old. And that makes you stop and think about what is really important.
Right.
And it's not exactly your situation, but it was also the situation of, okay, do I really want that corner office that bad? Not really. My family's more important. I would be at work, and a tool that somebody taught me, because I was in oil and gas. I ran a group of old men who were not happy with me being the boss, and they would yell at me. And someone told me, don't yell back. Speak softly, speak quietly. Because it's really hard for somebody to yell at you when you're speaking quietly and softly.
And that's you're getting out of your reptilian brain and into your thinking brain, right?
And then the only other piece of advice I can give you guys is work out. Because I'm going to my line every night after work, I would either kill one of my kids or kill one. That was I ran, I worked out, I went to kickboxing. Kickboxing is awesome because we could punch things. And so think about those kind of things. But the thing that's so important that Jennifer mentioned, you've got to take care of yourself. Mm-hmm. You've got to keep your sanity. And it's going to help you for not only your career, but your family, your kids. I do have to brag on my kids because I was telling of love. Woo. My youngest was 7 when his dad died. Stepdaughter was 6, had just turned 16, and my stepson was 18 and we just started Texas A&M. And you really have to, I wouldn't quite say they had to raise themselves, but I was a project manager and I project managed successful job. They are very committed to their work. They're creative, they're smart, and they manage their lives. So don't feel like you've got your own stuff to worry about. Make your kids take responsibility for stuff too.
Amen.
Because they'll come out better for it.
Amen. So anyway, thank you. Sorry to hijack the session.
just had one question. There was this library you worked through, like kind of a workbook thing, and one of them was like, "What do you want to do?" And what if your answer is, "I just want to go home"? Is it ever appropriate? Like yesterday, I just had to go home because sometimes, like you said, take care of yourself. And I Googled like what is happening because I have a lot of energy. And I just had none yesterday. And I just went home and worked in my bed and sent emails. And I think that's exactly what I needed.
And the mistake, and to your point, when you want to go home, because the mistake I had, you know, we could tell more stories all day, but I was driving to work. For about a year, I was the chief financial officer of Southwestern, completely unprepared for the role. They thrust me into it. And I was driving to work and I got a call from my mom that my dad died. You know what I did? I went on to work.
I did the same thing. I had the exact same experience and went on to work.
I got a big meeting at noon. I got to go to work. I went to work. I went to the meeting and I blew up at the meeting. I said, I like cussed, which at that company you do not do. And everyone their eyes were this big, and I didn't tell anyone that my dad died. So when you want to go home, go home. And when I think about, when I reflect, and I don't ruminate when I reflect, when you're in emotional stress like that, it's listen to your, go home.
Cool. That's what I just wanted the approval.
Yes.
I just have a question real quick. Can I get your phone number?
It's right beside you. Right?
Oh, okay.
How do you choose when to I brought up a deep subject.
Process for making a big decision about something, even if it's really good for you or your family or whatever it is. But it's like, how do you know when to keep pushing when you're not getting the results that you want versus saying, you know what, maybe this is something I wanted, it's just not meant to be for whatever reason. And is there like a time frame that you personally have found that you persist against something? Because you always hear what you resist, right? And so sometimes I think it's so hard to see like when you should continue to fight and keep making progress and like keep pushing, because you know that there's something on. It's like the blade of grass that's coming up through the soil, right? Yeah. Or what's the adage about the Chinese tree? You water it, you nurture it, you do all this stuff, and nothing happens for 5 years. Well, 90 days later, it shoots up 10 stories or whatever it is. So everything that's incredibly valuable in life is worth working really hard for. And when you know this thing is incredibly valuable, you kind of found like, especially in your experience, I know you've dealt with all kinds of stuff and maybe had to be in positions that you didn't necessarily agree with, but you were hired to do something and you had to move forward with that, right? So do you have kind of like a thought process or a system that you use for persisting even though you're not getting the results?
Now, in a professional context, yes, and for me that would be I like to say, and then Jamie sitting in the room, and we did a pod. One of my things is just ask. So I reflect back to my career at Southwestern Energy, and I wanted. I don't know what your situation is, but I was stuck in my position. I was bored. I was like, if I'm in the same position for the next 10 years, I'm going to put a bullet in my head. But I love the company, and I kept asking and asking and asking and asking, and I was told no. I was told no, and I kept asking and asking and asking, because it's something that I really wanted. And it was, and then it became an option of, I want this. Do I want to stay and fight for it, or do I want to leave and try to get it somewhere else? And I love the company so much, I was willing to stay and fight for it. And then, I don't, serendipity, whatever you call it, it took about 5 years, but I got what I wanted career-wise. And then I was like, now what did I get myself?
Yeah.
But that's one way to look at it. But the caveat is, when I say just ask, you have to ask, you've got to have backup for that. And I'll give an example of when I was, again, I was a supervisor of a department, and I had a young man who just got out of graduate school working in an oil and gas company. He's like, I want to be CEO of this company one day. And I'm like, you're never going to be CEO. You're an accountant. No, stop. And so that's where him coming to me thinking I'm going to okay, I'm going to mentor you. And we're going to no, just stop. Maybe, it's not, no. So, he had an unrealistic view of where he wanted to go in the company. And so that's the thing. If it's, becomes, and then it becomes, and I'll just finish with this one. It becomes the three things. When you're in a situation, you can either leave it, accept it, or change it. Right. And if it comes to those are your three choices in any situation. And so if you're hitting this door and you're not getting what you want, you can keep hitting the door, or you can just accept it, or you can leave, or try to change it somewhere. So I don't know if that answered your question, but that's how I kind of see it. And then now in post career, I've tried to find some roles that I thought I really wanted, and I didn't get them, and I didn't get them, and I didn't get them. And then it was kind of like, it's like, okay, I think I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop that tug of war. I'm going to stop pulling on that road, and I'm going to go a different direction, and I'm happy. Yeah.